Hello and welcome to Speak Easy. This is a discussion which looks at taboo subjects within the Black community. And today is our third and final part of Women Talking HIV. I'm Chantel and I'm from BHA for Equality.
And hi, I'm Yvonne, a woman living with HIV. I'm also a volunteer at George House Trust supporting people who also live with HIV.
So I'll just get the video up and we'll pick up from where we last left off.
I think it's about being open, about talking about it freely, but, you know, listening to Anna's experience and yourself, Yvonne's, I don't know what that feels like, you know, and I can't even sit here and say I pretend to know what that feels like. I've got a lot of experience, a hell of a lot of experience, but I am not you. Do you know what I mean? So how do you feel like I can help you? What makes your experience, you come out of that kind of like, I don't know, assessment or appointment, what makes you think, you know what, I was treated with like a person? What can we do?
Anna had her hand raised, so I know she wants to make a point, and then I'm going to try and answer that question too.
Claire, she touched something very important, the language. Just to very briefly, when I was first diagnosed, I didn't want to leave that, you know, clinic without the resistance test, like to see whether or not I'll be, just so people who don't know, whether or not will be like resistant to any drugs. So I sat there for 2 hours waiting to be seen. And then this nurse, she was like, from out of all STDs they could catch, you needed to catch HIV. I was like, silence. How I'm gonna answer that comment? And I was like, okay, I understand now. The illness is not gonna kill me, but the stigma will probably do it. I was like, honestly, how can someone tell me? I just found out 2 hours ago that I'm HIV positive. It's like almost I'm gonna have sex and I'm picking and choose which, you know, STDs I'll bring home. It's not like that. It's not like that, literally. And I was like, okay, now I know the problem of this virus, the stigma, you know, the way, the morality, they see this. But this is a health professional. And then she's trying to like, oh, you know, I've got diabetes. You know, think of it like my diabetes diagnosis. I was like, after you saying that, you're gonna tell me this is just a diabetes. So she made me feel, you know, so bad. The thing is language. The language around, you know, talking about HIV within health professionals, it needs to change. And as well, health professional, they need to believe science. Some of them, they still don't believe in science. Yeah, but I'll let Yvonne, you know, expand that answer.
Yeah, because I know at the moment there is a conference going on for people living with HIV and health professionals. And one of the key things that has come out of the conference is language. Because the moment we all heard Anna's experience, we understood the implicit side or sub-conversation that was being had and the moral judgments. I think one of the things that I was concerned about in my case was that there were health professions who ask about how you contracted it. It becomes irrelevant because you have moral, as individuals, whether we're health professionals or not, we need to stop asking the questions, because when someone presents with an illness, the focus is on the person and getting them back to a place of health. To ask about how they got it is about us going into the old curiosity shop and wallowing in questions that the answer of is irrelevant to the person's health and well-being. So stop asking about it. Don't ask about it, because you will automatically move into moral judgments that may affect how you care for that person. When someone comes, I always see it's medicine without frontiers. It's medicine without judgment. Look after the person. That's that, and focus on that. The reason I'm strong about that is my partner was told or asked whether or not he would leave me because I was HIV positive from a healthcare professional. And there was an implication that my child may be taken from me because I was HIV positive. So even though there is law legislation around how professionals behave, people jump into being human, but what that is doing is it's having an impact not only on my partner, not only on my child, but on me. How I live as a person with HIV now is being loaded with fear and panic. That was unnecessary. But also my partner is being loaded with a perception of me that he may or may not can come to by himself. That whole discussion should be for us, by us. When people start waiting, as professionals who have a level of a power above and beyond, they make it difficult for me to function as an HIV positive person, but also the judgment swings and it puts weight and power in places it shouldn't need to be. So I'm really conscious of language. I'm also conscious because it teaches me how I should feel about myself. And when Anna says, of all the things you could get, you see automatically what that does for a person. When you talk about HIV, the conference came out with a list of words and an understanding of HIV that will help a professional and anyone in general talk about HIV so that it is less shaming, it is less stigmatizing, because when it comes to race, we are learning what words we can or can't use. It's the same with HIV. If we want to enable a person who's positive, then if we consciously, like you said, Claire, choose the words we use and the mindset that we have, if we check in, it makes a difference to me being able to live a positive life.
That is scary, because even as I am listening to it again, the message still chimes very clearly, resonates with me. And I think the science of U equals U and once on medication, we cannot transmit, because if it's about fear, that is one thing, but I also understand that we are behind in the science and the understanding, both as a person who can take the medication and move on, but also the wider world that HIV has changed. It's a long-term chronic condition. It's not a death sentence. And also the fear of catching it, that needs to change in people's mind. You acquire, but you live a long and healthy life. So that whole notion of language matters, and understanding of the science, because when you understand the science, you know the benefits of being on medication as a person with HIV, but also as a healthcare professional and the general population, you understand then there is nothing to be afraid of and everything to gain from a person with HIV in terms of friendships and colleagues, and we then become your everyday Joe in the street, and the focus is on what we bring to any situation and not the virus and the fear of that.
I think what kind of stuck out to me there as well was when you were saying how that curiosity doesn't help, and it kind of took me back to like around the time where I did meet you, and I was curious, but it was always in my mind, that's none of your business. Like, that's none of your business at all. Like, I don't need to be asking that. And just allowing you to share what you want, when you want, you know, how, when you're ready to. But like, I think that is so important. And maybe if I did have that curiosity, not even as a professional and as a colleague, but, you know, as a friend, that would destroy our relationship. So yeah, that really struck out to me then, just hearing that bit again, back. And yeah, just like you say, in the professional behavior versus being human in a sense, but then being human, we have to understand that we've got to be compassionate as well. So that's important. And
yeah. I appreciate the fact that you held on to your curiosity, because I think each time you were approached, it's your first time, but it's not my first time. And it's like everything else. The jokes that we always think are original when we say it, trust me, the person's heard it before. And that's the jarring bit, because we are having to be resilient over and over and over. And eventually over and over isn't cutting it. And whether you're right, hold your curiosity and empower me by not asking and allowing me to choose, and also respect that if I choose not to tell you, that is about my choices, and our relationship doesn't have to be any less for you not knowing the nitty-gritty. So
at the same time, like, that HIV status is a tiny piece of Yvonne. So it's like you say, you don't have to share it. You didn't have to share information that you shared, and that wouldn't have made a difference to, you know, the relationship that we've got today. So I'm happy that, I mean, I wouldn't have anyway, but just knowing like, that there are, as a human being, like you pointed out, you are curious. You want to know, and being like, I've listened to some stories, you know, like with the Positive Speakers program, and like, you know, your curiosity and just understanding things more. But that's different people's individual stories. Like, no story is the same.
That's right.
And that's part of that program. I'm working with you when I'm, you know, that relationship isn't in the capacity of that program. So it was important that that respect was there.
And I want to qualify that it doesn't mean, oh, if you talk to me, I'm gonna. I understand that sometimes, for me, in some ways people say, but you're out there, you're public, people are, so understand there's a practice and I manage it. And we're talking about the moment you go to somebody or you hear the diagnosis, it's about catching your breath and suspending your fear, because if they're on medication, and even if they aren't, understand or learn the routes of transmission, so that you understand talking to someone or even having sex with someone doesn't automatically mean you will acquire HIV. I think your curiosity can be sorted by doing your own research.
Yeah.
Because what we're talking about is developing relationships with people, respecting them plays high. If you've got a lot of questions, there are a lot of great resources. So flick back to BHA, flick back to Terence Higgins Trust, flick to George House Trust. They can speak to you. You can actually get literature. There is literature online. There's a great resource called the National AIDS Manual, NAM. Google it online, and it talks about loads of different aspects, including for those who are positive, how do we talk to other people? But it also talks about how you acquire. So that's the different ways it can be transmitted and how you can look after yourself. Sorry. And so some of the questions that you might want to ask because you're curious, you don't know, and you want to learn, don't burden the person who has the HIV with that. Do your own research. So what you do is you come to them with a level of knowledge. You show respect that you have found out yourself, and the focus then becomes on understanding the person and developing the relationship with the person, and in time what you need to understand about their HIV status if it's relevant to your relationship. So for some of us, if a person is positive, HIV positive, and you're in the workplace, you don't need to know that information. You may not need to know it at all, or it may not come into conversation. So it's not an automatic must. If you are dating someone with HIV, there is an understanding in relationships about you looking after your body and the person who's positive looking after theirs. If they're on medication, they cannot transmit. But then there is this, we come together to have a relationship and both coming in with an understanding of what is comfortable for both of you and not a fear of the person with HIV. So again, you get clued up about HIV and sex intercourse, what is safe, what's not safe, and ask yourself, what am I comfortable with? So when the two of you engage, you are both comfortable.
You've also as well spoke about how your partner was asked if they were going to stay with you, and also that fear as well of your children being taken away. So it's like getting the diagnosis, and then that like fear of those, you know, your closest ones, your loved ones, like just moving away from you, like losing that as well. Didn't even think of that.
Yeah, I think it doesn't leave us. So a lot of the time, the reason that people often cite about not wanting to do public speaking is they are afraid of the impact on their family or the impact on their children, and a sense of, I have to protect my family from the stigma. So you double, again, it's a double weight. The weight I carry is not just the virus itself and the shame that people load on it. I'm also having to manage my behavior so that it doesn't have impact on them. They have to manage how they live with me, if you like, because they're afraid of what they can or can't say. So it's almost like my diagnosis has a ripple effect always on those around me. As a mother, I am careful still because my son is all in and very supportive of me. But I also know that the world is cruel and that people will not respect my diagnosis, and it can have an impact on him. And again, there is the whole Equality Act 210, which talks about protecting people who are positive. A protected characteristic is as a long-term disability. We shouldn't be discriminated against. But I also understand that in the workplace, people can make you uncomfortable, can discriminate. Employers can discriminate at the recruitment process onwards without even thinking about it. And so there's a level of awareness that I always have to gear into when I make choices about how open I am because of the repercussions to family and friends. That, Chantel, that is particularly difficult because it's that whole weighted, it's the weight of the judgment and whether I should be punished, and almost the expectation or inferring you have a right to leave her, you have a right to take your child with you, she's done wrong, she needs to be punished. And that is about, again, how the media and society portrayed HIV as being something that you punish those who have it because they are people who should be punished. They are inherently wrong.
It's interesting how that's the option rather than the support, and how do we stick by and how do we support and make sure that, you know, everything's in place. Whereas it's the total opposite, like, when are you gonna go, sort of, in it.
Yeah. And I know
damaging.
that the impact that had on me was that I waited. I lived in fear and waited for him to leave. I thought it was only a matter of time. And what was sad, that until I got more support, did I understand that I mattered as well. And you're right, what should have been happening was that we were supported as a family to stay together if that was our choices, or to explore our options. But that I thought that it was okay for him to leave, and said, yeah, you can leave if you want to. And that level of shaming, it needs to stop. But if I hadn't have had the support of George House Trust, I'm not sure we would be together, because I know the shame is enough to push. It makes you want to push people away, and you shut down and feel unworthy of love. And that is just compounded by social attitudes. And then you stigmatize yourself as not having worth or value. And so it's okay to treat me the way that people do.
Thank you. I'm gonna head back to the video. Can I just put in there?
Yeah.
I agree with what you were saying about words being really powerful, and going back to like education starts at home and stuff, like even just the words HIV. If we go into say somewhere where there's many people that don't speak English as a first language, you mention HIV when you're talking about your store, everyone knows what you're talking about, or they'll say AIDS, they know what it is. So that association with the words HIV, and letting your children, even if you're not even explaining from the get-go, but HIV being a word that's not got that association with it, you can say HIV and it's not, you know, scary, stigma, all these things with it. It's HIV. And then you, as the children progress in age, then there's more conversations around it. Also, just want to move over to another powerful U equals U, because we speak about that a lot as health professionals, community professionals, you know, about it, you know, as people living with HIV as well. Not everybody knows what U equals U means.
Okay, then. Who's going to tell the most fantastic news on the world? If in my world, U equals
Should we tell the negative
business.
people to tell us? You know, if they know. On the spot, girl.
You're going to get tested.
No, Chantal, you know.
Okay.
Chantal, the boss.
Okay, so undetectable equals untransmittable. And when I go out in the community and I speak about this, I let people know that somebody who is living with HIV, they can reach, you know, a status where their HIV is undetectable, in that is when their viral load has dropped so low that it wouldn't be detected. When you are at this stage as somebody living with HIV where you are undetectable, it means that you cannot transmit HIV onto anybody else. And that's the easiest way that I know how to explain to someone in the community without them thinking, what? But even still saying that, it's not penetrating. It's like, how's that possible?
Yeah, can I just say something else on there?
Yeah,
It's about not transmitting, but I feel like there's a need as well to say, because I'm undetectable, okay, not only I will not transmit HIV to like my sexual partner or to my child, but then we need, you know, to look into the vertical transmission and so on. But as well, it means that my immune system, you know, it's healthy. And because I'm undetectable, I just have this little virus, you know, hidden in my body, you know, trying to make some damage, but will not reach that point, because it's like in UK, to be undetectable, need to have like less than 50 copies of the virus, yeah, per ml of blood. And yes, I'm there. And it's not that today I'm undetectable and in a month's time I'll be detectable. It's not that. That's why we've got this every 6 months. Once you are undetectable, we check every 6 months to check your, you know, viral loads and your CD4 cells for your immune system. And yes, I'm healthy. not just
That's the message.
Yes,
That's
I'll
the
not get AIDS.
message.
HIV is the virus. AIDS is the late stage of, you know, when you get to the point
thank
where
you
it's
for that,
detectable.
because that is so important. Because also, like when we talk about it, you know, before people are testing, and we'll say, you know, it's not a death sentence, and you know, there is medication, it's free. You can use, you know, when you're consistent with your medication and you take it as you're supposed to, this is how you can achieve an undetectable status. But also, that is so important what you said there as well, about it's not just you can't transmit it, but also it means as well for your health.
Why that's important, because of the fear. I am telling you, there is nothing to be afraid of. But importantly for me, the reason I take the meds is because it keeps me healthy. Why? Because I have a life to live. I take the medication because it works. I am healthier than a horse, and I'm a big horse. And I am cracking on with my life, living it, having arguments with my partner, having arguments with my son, driving my mum crazy, running up and down to the shop, doing too much, not doing. And do you know why I can do it? Because my immune system is protected. And because I walk on the streets with no fear. I have a virus inside my body that I have put to sleep. It can do no damage, and I am of no, I am not a threat to anyone, and I dislike the threat because, again, it goes back to language. People with HIV do not threaten people sexually, but to make sure I put it to bed, I'm on my medication, but I don't do it for society. I do it for me. The meds work, and I am living my best and healthiest life. And we need to get that message across. It's not about protecting society from us. It's about us looking after ourselves. And that's the message that needs to be put out there, because you scare people with HIV. The story is about something that is out there that is scary. We don't do that with diabetes. We don't do that with cancer. Cancer doesn't have the same scare factor. It's not nice. The long-term prognosis may not always be, but when we talk about it, we fight cancer. We support people. The language around HIV should be about the health benefits of being on the medication and looking after yourself. And the reasons why you look after yourself are about you, because you are worth it. That's what I'm putting out there. And so let me go really raw about how good this medication is. I can have unprotected sex and I cannot pass HIV on to you. Did you hear that? Because I don't think people really understand the scale. No condom. I can have a child now, no condom, unprotected sex, and my child is negative. You don't have to double glove with me. You don't have to move away from me. We can sit in the same pool. We can share the same glass, same drink. You can hug, you can kiss. You can love me as much or as little as you want. And the focus should be on that experience and not on my HIV. That is why U equals U is massive for me, because it gives me back my life, my freedom. Amen.
So, since this, like literally, like when I do the speech anyway, like, you know, you can have HIV and live a long, healthy, happy life, like that's on the script, but this really resonated with me because explaining U equals U, and it was like a target of, you know, U equals U, not passing on HIV, rather than including that the medication allows you to be healthy also. So since this, I've made a point of making sure that I do say that when I do speak of U equals U as well, because it's so important. And again, it's the language.
And I think the more people hear it and the more people see, or they won't see if the truth be known, people around them who are positive and on medication, but understand the scale of the science. U equals U means that virus is put to sleep, period. And I am checked every 6 months or every year now. And once you are on a set of drugs, because there are about, I think they said 30 to 50 different combinations of HIV medication they take, that you can take, and the doctors will work with you and your lifestyle to get a combination that is good for your body, minimize the side effects, stabilize the HIV. You get on with your life. And I think for me, the tragedy is that so many of us get stuck with being punished, get stuck with the language, get stuck with the medication, our fight in society. And we can't live our life because we have so much to wade through. We are afraid of the medication. And so the whole life after doesn't happen for us. And so my fight is for all those with no voice and who are still afraid and haven't got over the medication, is to fight to show people that times have changed. We need to move on as well with how we see, we live, and what we understand about HIV and the medication. It's been good. I've enjoyed this.
Amen.
Amen.
Got you there in the background.
Yeah.
So I think, and I hope that you've enjoyed the process, ladies. I've had a fantastic time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
It's
Hang on, I'm going to have to take this call if they're ringing me again. Hello. Okay. So where were we up to? Right. So I think what I've appreciated is that even as I go back, there is so much. I would say to people that you have the opportunity to see the video in its entirety and watch that. There is a really good vibe going on. Be inspired by that. But if it's too long for you to take, because there is a lot of information, definitely do the 3 segments in your own time and pick out the information that you found useful. And again, remember that Chantel and I are available either through BHA or through George House Trust to support and to answer those questions about HIV, but in the wider picture about sexual health in general. I hope you have learned more in a non-threatening way and been able to smile or even laugh about the journey and the do's and don'ts about HIV. What do you think, Chantel?
Yeah, I think you summed that up like perfectly. Just want to thank everyone who's managed to, you know, check out the videos, everyone who's took part as well in the discussion, and thank you for asking me to be part of it as well. It has been a journey and I have learned some stuff as well. Even though I am, you know, a professional in this field, I'm still learning, and just thank you for sharing.
It's been my pleasure. I'm hoping, less fear, more science, and we can all open ourselves to better experiences. But this has been me, Yvonne and Chantel, doing the Speakeasy. We look forward to seeing you again. Take care. Bye.
Bye.